I thought I was living a dream in a luxury penthouse, until the billionaire trapped me. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting golden rays over the glittering skyline. I could hear the bustling streets below, a constant hum of life. It felt like magic. I had everything I ever wanted. But beneath the surface, shadows danced. His name was Felix. Tall, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look straight through me. Our connection was electric. I remember the thrill when he offered me the world, a whirlwind of parties and glamour. Little did I know that beneath his charming smile lay a maze of darkness and secrets. It all started with small things. The way he would watch me, assessing my every move. The locked doors in the penthouse, a constant reminder that some places were off-limits. I filled my days with excitement, friends surrounding me, laughter echoing through the halls. But I often felt a knot of fear in my stomach, an uneasy feeling that always lurked when Felix was around. One night, as the city glimmered below us, I found myself alone, staring at the reflection in the glass. I felt small, trapped in a cage of luxury. My heart raced. Was it all too good to be true? I reached for my phone, fingertips trembling. I wanted to call my sister Zara. I needed someone to pull me back to reality, to tell me everything was fine. But the words caught in my throat. What if I overreacted? What if he really loved me? Then it happened. A whispered conversation I wasn't meant to hear, drifting through the cracked door. Felix's low voice, laced with something sinister that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't make out all the words, but the chilling tone held promises of betrayal. I pressed my ear closer, my breath hitching in my throat. My heart thudded painfully. Just then, a loud crash from outside me heart stopped. I rushed to the window, peering down. A sleek black car had skidded to a halt, tires screeching against the pavement. The driver emerged, a figure wrapped in shadows. Something about him felt wrong, dangerous. I pulled back, breath shallow. Silence enveloped me. The weight of dread settled heavy on my chest. I needed to leave. This luxury penthouse was suddenly a prison, and Felix was no longer the dream I thought he was. An image of Zara flashed in my mind, her wide eyes, filled with concern. Had I ignored the signs too long? Would I ever escape this? I felt dizzy, my hands trembling as I glanced around. The door loomed before me, choice hanging in the air, thick and palpable. I had to decide. Stay, or face the unknown out there. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The decision churned inside me like a storm. I paced the glossy marble floor, glancing back at the doorway, half expecting Felix to appear, his expression unreadable. My chest felt tight, and each step echoed in the silence of the penthouse. I could feel the shadows closing in, every instinct screaming for me to flee, but the world out there seemed just as daunting. The phone buzzed on the table, jolting me from my thoughts. It was a message from Zara. Hey, just wanted to check in. Everything okay? I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. How could I tell her everything without sounding crazy? The secrets swirling around me felt too heavy to share, yet I longed for her comfort. Instead of replying, I turned to the door. My heart raced, pounding in my ears, as I heard the clinking of glass behind me. Felix entered, a broad smile plastered on his face, as if he had just returned from conquering the world. Hey, beautiful. I've got a surprise for you. The warmth in his voice felt sinister against the chill creeping into my bones. What is it? I managed, trying to keep my tone steady. His eyes sparkled with excitement. Just you wait. I've arranged a private dinner at the rooftop. Just us, with a view of the stars. He stepped closer, but something flared in my chest, a flicker of the old fear. Actually, I was thinking maybe I should go out for a while. Get some fresh air, I stammered, surprising even myself with my sudden boldness. Felix's smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. But I thought he began, but I interrupted, desperation clawing at my insides that I just need to clear my head. I insisted, firming my resolve. He stepped back, crossing his arms. His expression darkened. You don't need to go anywhere, Ava. You have everything you could ever want right here. Before I could respond, he launched into a vehement defense of this life. He provided a life of comforts and security, but I could only focus on the weight of his words. The walls felt closer, trapping me in this elaborate cage decorated with pretty things that I am not a prisoner. I shot back, my voice sharp. I should be able to leave if I want to. With a flare of anger, Felix turned away, rubbing the back of his neck as silence stretched between us, thick and unyielding. I could see the twisting fire in his posture, and the realization washed over me. He was losing control. That I want to trust you, Felix, I said quietly, my heart pounding. But I need space. Please. For a long moment, he remained still. Then, without a word, he stormed out of the room. I felt a wave of relief alongside a sudden pang of guilt, but it was overshadowed by the dread that loomed. His anger might lead to something worse. What would happen next? Would he try to keep me from leaving? My feet moved almost on instinct toward the door. If I had any chance of regaining control over my life, I needed to search for answers beyond this luxurious trap. I opened the door cautiously, peering into the dim hallway. The uncertainty of my surroundings felt more liberating than I had anticipated. I slipped out, each step pulling me away from the illusion that had seduced me, the walls of the penthouse falling further behind. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and I rushed inside, pressing the button for the ground floor. As the door slid closed, I let out a shaky breath. But the sudden buzz of my phone drew my attention again. It was another message, this time from an unknown number. Meet me at the cafe on 8th Street. I have something important to tell you about Felix. My heart raced. Who was this? What could they possibly know? A million thoughts raced through my head as the elevator descended. The street below was filled with life, much like the chaotic hum I had felt earlier. But this time, I was ready to embrace it. As the doors opened, a sense of urgency propelled me forward. I would find this cafe, and whatever the truth was that strangled Felix's secrets would finally emerge. With every step, I felt more empowered, leaping toward the unknown until the realization hit. What if this was a trap too? What if I was walking straight into danger? But the chance to uncover the truth, to know what was really happening in my life, drowned out the fear. I stepped onto the bustling street, the world ablaze with sounds and colors, the air crisp and liberating. Each minute brought me closer to a confrontation I couldn't shy away from. As my heart pounded, and the looming cafe came into view, I realized I was teetering on the brink of a precarious ledge. What awaited me could change everything, potentially saving me or plunging me deeper into darkness. The truth would soon be out there, waiting just beyond the cafe's welcoming doors, and I could only hope it would lead me back to the light. The cafe buzzed with a rhythmic clatter of cups and murmurs, a place where people shared laughter and stories. I stepped inside, the sudden warmth encasing me like a thick blanket. Light poured from vintage lamps, casting a golden hue over wooden tables and mismatched chairs. It felt like a different world, one completely detached from the storm brewing in my life. I scanned the room, searching for a familiarity in the sea of faces. My heart jumped when I spotted a woman sitting alone at the far corner table, her curly hair a cascade of dark waves. She looked up as I approached, her eyes widening, prompting a jolt of recognition. Ava, she said softly, as if testing the name on her tongue. Lena. The name felt heavy, weighted with the promise of untold stories. I sat down, every nerve on edge. What do you know about Felix? She glanced around, assessing the surrounding patrons. It's safer to talk here than elsewhere, she whispered, her voice low but steady. You're in more danger than you realized. My breath caught. What do you mean? Lena leaned closer, her expression tightening with urgency. Felix is not who he says he is. You need to understand what you're involved with. He's not just a businessman. There are things you need to know. Dangerous things. My thoughts raced, the comforting atmosphere of the cafe fading as the gravity of her words sank in. What are you talking about? Is he involved in something illegal? Worse, she replied, gaze darting to the window. He's connected to a criminal syndicate. He deals in far more than just real estate, money laundering, smuggling. I can't go into all the details now, but you have to believe me. A wave of disbelief coursed through me. a stark contrast to the warmth of the cafe. Why should I trust you? Because I used to work for him, she said, emotion flickering in her eyes. I was drawn in by the glitz and glamour, just like you. But once you're in, it becomes impossible to leave without consequences. I managed to escape, but he doesn't forget. You need to find a way out before he pulls you deeper. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I processed her words. Could my life really be that entangled in darkness? How had I been so blind? What do I do? I asked, a tremor edging into my voice. How can I get away from him? Lena hesitated, her eyes darting again to the window, and I followed her gaze. My stomach dropped. Felix stood outside the cafe, his jaw clenched, scanning the crowd with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. It was like being watched by a predator. Quick, Lena urged, her hand on mine. We have to keep moving. If he sees you here, it could get dangerous. I nodded, heart racing as I pushed my chair back. We rose together, slipping through the cafe's narrow exit before Felix could spot me. The moment we stepped outside, I felt a pang of regret. I had willingly opened this Pandora's box. What if I was running toward even worse consequences? Lena led me through the streets, the noise of the cafe fading behind us. You need to find a safe place, she said, her voice urgent. I have an old colleague who might be able to help. But you must be careful that I can't go back. Lena, I said, despair creeping into my voice. If I go back, he will know something is off. We turned down a winding alley, the light fading as we entered a more secluded area. My heart raced, not from the thrill of adventure, but from the weight of what I knew. I was caught in a morass of fear and uncertainty, my life spiraling faster than I could grasp. Lena glanced at me, her expression softened. You have to be strong. You have more power than you realize. Trust your instincts. They will guide you. Power? I feel so helpless, I confessed, desperation seeping through my bravado. You're not helpless. Facing the truth is the first step. Now you know, she insisted, her hand squeezing mine in encouragement. Just then, shouting erupted from the mouth of the alley. Felix's voice rang out, furious, searching. Ava, he called, his tone like ice against my skin. Get back here. Panic seized me, and I pulled Lena further into the dimness of the alley. Every part of me screamed to run, to hide from him, but the rumble of dread grew louder, an impending storm ready to unleash its fury. Quick! We can't let him see us, Lena urged, and we ducked behind a cluster of garbage bins. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, both for the danger looming and the reality of my situation. As his silhouette moved past us, I caught the tension in his shoulders, how his body radiated a fury born from desperation. My pulse quickened. This was a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Do you trust me? Lena asked, her eyes searching mine. I swallowed hard, uncertainty swirling in my gut. I do, I said softly, realizing I had no choice but to place my fate in another person's hands. What happens next will change everything, she warned, just as Felix paused, the echo of his voice threatening to unravel the fragile string of safety we clung to. In that moment, I understood. I wasn't just living in fear of losing my freedom. I was standing at the precipice of something greater, and I could either leap into the unknown or let the abyss consume me whole. My heart raced as I whispered, "What will we do?" The air hung thick with anticipation, a fragile thread woven between hope and utter devastation as we waited, holding our breath, for what would come next. As I crouched behind the garbage bins, the world beyond narrowed to the frantic rhythm of my heartbeat. Felix's voice echoed like a distant storm, and the weight of his desperation wrapped around me, making it hard to breathe. I could sense Lena's resolve beside me, a beacon of toughness amidst my spiraling fears. My past, filled with enchanting dinners and mesmerizing views from the penthouse, faded under the shadows of this new reality. I had traded authenticity for allure, and now it threatened to swallow me whole. Lena's grip tightened on my hand, a gentle lifeline in the chaos. When he moves on, we need to go. This alley connects to a network of back streets. We can slip away unseen. I nodded, forcing myself to focus. Hope flickered in the corner of my mind, battling the despair that loomed large. What if he finds us? Then we won't let him, she stated, her voice steady and unwavering. There was something profoundly comforting about her confidence, an armor against my spiraling panic. Felix's voice faded into an echo, and with it, seemed to lift some of the fear. He might be moving on, I whispered, ready to unleash the adrenaline coiling in my veins. Now, Lena urged, and we darted from our cover, the chill of the night air hitting me like a wave. We dashed down the alley, each hurried step a prayer for safety. In the half-light, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. There was something about running for my life that ignited dormant parts of me, and defiance began to bloom in the corners of my fear. I was not just a passenger. I was a fighter trying to reclaim my narrative. But as we stumbled into the next street, I noticed the flickering of lights ahead, the dreaded specter of Felix's security vehicle parked at the intersection. The knot in my stomach tightened. He has eyes everywhere, I breathed, panic blooming again like wildflowers in spring. Lena scanned the surroundings, her brow furrowing in thought. We have to take a longer route, through the residential blocks. I was willing to follow her anywhere, for I felt a surge of trust in her. I had just met her, and yet she had stepped into my life like a guardian angel, willing to fight in my corner against an enemy that seemed insurmountable. As we navigated through darker, twisted streets, I caught snippets of life happening around us. A group of children laughed joyfully in a patch of nearby grass, their innocence and playfulness striking against the seriousness of my world. They reminded me of simpler times, of summer evenings lost in the laughter of friends. It felt alien yet comforting, like standing on the precipice of a cliff looking into a deep canyon, where the echoes of the past still lingered. When we finally ducked into an overgrown walkway leading to an apartment complex, Lena halted and turned to me. We're almost there. I promise. Just a little further. Her words soothed my racing heart, yet the weight of uncertainty still loomed. What if your contact doesn't help us? Well, figure it out, she said, but there was a shadow of doubt in her eyes. But losing hope is not an option. Before I could respond, a heavy thud echoed behind us. Felix. The shadows were closing in, creeping closer with every second. I felt panic rush through me as I turned to run with Lena at my side, my legs moving as if they had a mind of their own. Heart pounding, we burst through a side entrance. The heavy double doors creaked as we entered the open lobby of the building. But as we stepped inside, reality hit me like a punch to the gut. The lobby was filled with people, each face a mask of anonymity to me, yet every person could be a potential witness to my shame. Wait here, Lena commanded softly, scanning the room. Let me check if he's close. I nodded, trembling as I pressed myself against a pillar, my eyes darting to the glass doors that led to the street. Suddenly, they swung open, and my heart sank. Felix entered, his imposing figure slicing through the lobby like a blade. The bustling chatter of residents turned to a hushed murmur as everyone took notice. Lena, he's here, I whispered. Urgently, my fears coiling tighter. She rushed back to my side, her eyes wide with fright. We need to move. Just then, Felix spotted us, a predator locking onto its prey. A sinister smile spread across his face, and my blood froze. Ava, there you are. You can't run away from me. My stomach churned, the weight of his words crashing over me. I was trapped in a web I had unwittingly spun. Just then, a hand grasped my wrist, firm yet comforting. I glanced up to see Lena staring into my eyes, determination etched across her face. Go. Find the stairs. They'll hold him off, she shouted. No. I can't leave you. I cried, panic surging through me. Trust me. You have to survive. Just run. She yelled, desperation igniting the air between us. With my heart breaking, I broke from her hold and dashed toward the staircase, the echoes of Felix's voice and Lena's bravery pushing me forward. Each step I took was filled with confusion, fear, and a shred of hope that maybe if I escaped, there would still be a chance to reclaim my life. As I reached the landing, I dared to look back. I caught a glimpse of Felix, the shadow of menace eclipsing my last threads of safety. But as I turned, I bumped into someone waiting at the top of the stairs. Blinking away my shock, recognition struck one of Felix's associates, a man I had seen at the penthouse parties. Hope drained from my veins, replaced by anxiety. Where do you think you're going? He asked, a smirk creeping across his lips. My heart raced as fear clawed at my throat. So this was it. This was how it ended, trapped between those I feared and the hope I was desperate to hold on to. And yet, as I prepared for the inevitable confrontation, a thought struck me. A small ember of defiance flickered within me, and maybe, just maybe, that ember could ignite a fire. With a mix of desperation and courage, I eked out my response. I'm leaving this nightmare behind, and you can't stop me. His brow shot up with surprise just as the sound of footsteps echoed behind me, a surge of hope mixed with dread as the shadow of my pursuer loomed large. The tangled web of choices spun tighter, and my destiny dangled on the knife's edge, swinging precariously between escape and catastrophe. Just like that, an emotional cliffhanger hung in the air, pregnant with the possibility of despair or redemption. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I stood frozen between the known and the unknown, the weight of desperation thickening the air around me. The figure before me, one of Felix's associates, was a stark reminder of the high-stakes game I'd been thrust into. I'm leaving this nightmare behind, I repeated, my voice stronger than I felt. I had never envisioned myself as defiant, yet the specter of Felix loomed larger than ever, and I refused to let him dictate my fate any longer. He chuckled, the kind of sound that vibrates with condescension. And how exactly do you plan to do that? Before I could muster a response, the heavy echo of footsteps behind me stirred my instincts. I had no time to ponder my next move. The escape I had envisioned was folding into chaos as the very walls felt like they were closing in. Get out of my way, I managed, lifting my chin defiantly. The resolve in my voice replaced some of the tremors of fear, but my heart raced uncontrollably. Not a chance, he sneered, stepping closer, effectively pinning me between him and the stairwell. Panic crawled up my throat, and my mind was a storm of options: fight, flee, plead. But then, before I could choose, the sound of rushing steps from below interrupted the tension. The man's gaze flickered, revealing a hint of uncertainty as he turned to glance down the staircase. It was a small opening, an opportunity. Now's my chance, I thought fiercely, surging forward and shouldering him aside with a strength I didn't know I possessed. In that fleeting moment, I burst down the stairs, my heart pounding in a rhythm of rebellion. The world behind me faded into a whirl of chaos, leaving only the raw urgency of survival. As I reached the bottom, the lighting switched from dim to bright, and I emerged into the lobby, breathless and wild-eyed, forcing myself to adapt to the ambient noise of the residents that filled the space. Yet the sense of sanctuary was fleeting. The atmosphere shifted as Felix's presence turned the excitement into dread. He had evidently exited the elevator, his expression darkening upon witnessing my escape. "Ava!" he bellowed, and the shock of vulnerability mixed with the thrill of escape snagged me like a hook. The residents stared, expressions morphing from surprise to concern, and I realized I had become a spectacular fusion of dread and intrigue. I sprinted through the crowd, weaving between startled faces, my thoughts in a frenzy. I can't let him catch me. I won't go back. As I reached the exit, a friendly face stepped into my path. It was a woman who lived in the building. A sad smile graced her face, the kind that hinted at knowing more than she let on. "Ava, dear, you need to be careful," she said, her voice low and conspiratorial, yet vibrant with empathy. "Please, you have to help me," I blurted, my plea tinged with desperation as Felix's imposing figure darkened the entrance behind me. The woman's gaze flicked toward him, and then back to me, her eyes glinting with understanding. "There's a back way through the lobby store. You can slip past him," she murmured, gesturing discreetly to my right. "Thank you," I exclaimed, feeling gratitude swell inside me like a buoy amidst turbulent waters. I took off toward the store, determined to put distance between myself and the oppressive specter of Felix. As I entered the small shop, an uncanny sense of safety enveloped me, even as I could still hear the distant bellow of Felix demanding my return. It was a bittersweet silence, one that filled my heart with fresh fears about what would happen if I did escape this time. "Everything all right, miss?" The store clerk, an elderly man with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor, glanced up at me, noticing my panic. His warmth was a soothing balm against my frayed edges. "Not yet, but I'm working on it," I replied, forcing a semblance of calm that belied the storm within. He nodded slightly, as if understanding the unspoken turmoil, and offered me a small bag of candy from the counter. "Take this. You'll need some strength." It was a simple gesture, yet it sparked a flicker of kindness in the chaos of everything. I accepted it, grateful for a brief moment of normalcy amidst this surreal existence. Then, without warning, the glass door swung open behind me, and Felix stepped into the store, his eyes scanning for me with an intensity that startled the air. I felt my heart drop. The sanctuary I thought I had found was about to collapse. "Where is she?" he demanded, ferocity lacing his voice. I stood paralyzed, my body betrayed by fear as the clerk shifted uncomfortably beside me. I had a choice to make, a moment to seize, to either hide or confront. My instincts screamed at me to run, but the kindness from the store clerk echoed in my mind and ignited something deeper, a resolve I hadn't possessed before. So this was it. I stepped forward boldly, all at once empowered by the people who had unknowingly connected their fates to mine. "I won't go back with you." My voice tremored, but it echoed like a rallying cry, shaking off the remnants of hopelessness. Felix's expression morphed from anger to something darker, sharper. "You really think you can just walk away?" A chill crept down my spine, and before I could anticipate his next move, he lunged forward, furious and determined. The world around me seemed to blur, and in that instant, I understood this battle was about to reach a new intensity. The stakes had never been higher, and as the emotions swirled, I recognized that hope often intermingles with fear, crafting stories of resilience from threads of despair. Just as the confrontation threatened to break free from the confines of this store, I felt the mounting pressure of an impending decision. Would I fight one last time, or let the darkness consume me? I could hear the chaos brewing beyond the threshold, and with a final surge of courage, I prepared for whatever storm would come, knowing that I was done waiting for rescue. A new chapter awaited, whether I was ready or not. The moment Felix lunged towards me, time warped, stretching every heartbeat into an eternity. I ducked instinctively, narrowly avoiding the grasp of his outstretched hand. The store's fluorescent lights shimmered above us, casting sharp shadows against the shelves stocked with mundane items, blurring the line between everyday life and a reality dipped in chaos. "Get back here," he shouted, his voice ricocheting off the walls like thunder. I glanced at the elderly clerk, whose eyes were wide with alarm, but there was a flicker of determination in his gaze, as if he was silently willing me to fight. The adrenaline coursing through my veins felt like liquid fire, igniting every nerve. I dashed to the side, heart racing as I edged around a display of neatly stacked snacks. I could sense the tension mounting behind me as Felix slammed his palm against a shelf, sending a cascade of chips raining to the ground with a crash. A primal instinct overtook meth instinct to flee, to vanish into the spaces that felt safe. Even though safety seemed an illusion, stay away from her. The clerk's voice broke through, suddenly fierce. I turned to see him step in front of me, arms raised in a protective stance. In the absurdity of the moment, I felt a swell of gratitude for this stranger who had turned into a bastion of hope, standing firm against the dangerous tide that washed toward us. "Move aside, old man." Felix's voice dripped with menace. "No, you won't hurt her," the clerk replied, showing a bravery that was both surprising and poignant. I took a breath, my heart swelling with the determination not to shrink in the face of fear. "Just go," I urged, my voice trembling. "I can handle this." There was strength hidden within me, ignited by the unexpected support of this kind man, yet I remained a tangled web of fear and resolve. With a sudden movement, I swerved past the clerk, my eyes darting back to Felix, his features twisted in rage. I bolted toward the rear exit of the store, where I glimpsed an open back door leading into the alleyway, a path that could lead to freedom or deeper peril. Just as I reached the threshold, I hesitated, glancing back. For a fleeting second, I wanted to ensure the safety of the clerk, this man who had shown me kindness when the world felt full of shadows. "Go," he shouted. "They'll hold him off." His voice was a rallying cry, giving me permission to choose my way to step through that door toward uncertainty but the promise of liberation. I took a deep breath, and I pushed through the door, the cool air of the alley wrapping around me like a fleeting embrace. I stumbled into the street, disoriented yet fueled by the commitment I made to myself. "I won't go back," I whispered, the words echoing in my mind like an unshakable mantra. Behind me, The cacophony of the store diminished as I sprinted, heart pounding as I navigated the maze of city streets. My feet felt both like lead and feathers, each step liberating yet heavy with the weight of what lay behind me. Just as I slowed to catch my breath, a loud crash echoed from the store, and dread clenched at my insides. Had Felix hurt him? Panic stabbed through my chest. For a moment, the battle against darkness felt insurmountable. Where was my sanctuary? My mind raced through avenues and alleyways I had traversed before, seeking an escape. But then, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. A ringing laugh mingled with the background noises of the city. It was Sophia, the girl from my art classes a few blocks away. As I turned the corner, I nearly collided with her, relief washing over me as her smile turned to concern. "Ava, what's going on?" Sophia's brows knitted together, her gaze darting back, sensing the fear radiating from me. "Felix," the first gasped, still catching my breath. "He's after me. He won't stop." My heart raced anew, the urgency of my plight spilling from my lips like a dam that had finally burst. In an unexpected turn, her face hardened with determination. "Come with me," she insisted, grabbing my wrist with a surprising amount of strength. "I know a place." I allowed her to lead me, stepping into the sanctuary of her world, feeling a flicker of what hope could resemble. We weaved through the streets, dodging pedestrians, until we reached a nearby cafe adorned with flowering vines and vibrant art piece, an oasis amid the turmoil. Tucked at the back of the cafe, she ushered me into a small room filled with captivating paintings and vibrant hues, shielding us from the outside chaos. My heart raced, yet within those walls, surrounded by the stories captured in colors, there was a sense of calm. "What happened?" She pressed gently, her eyes searching mine. There was a depth in her gaze, a recognition of the weight I was carrying. As I recounted my chaotic flight, each detail surfacing like scattered pieces on an uneven board, fear festered into a solid frustration, my walls creeping back up. "I'm just so tired of running," I confessed, my voice shaking with unspent emotions. Sophia took a step closer, her hand reaching out to clasp mine. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered earnestly, her presence anchoring a kaleidoscope of emotions surging inside me. In that moment, a glimmer of warmth ignited within me amid the stillness, but the intrusion of a vibration from my phone shattered it. My heart nearly stopped as I recalled the countless missed calls and messages from unknown numbers, each tinged with the lingering dread of Felix. As I pulled out the device, my breath caught. I had an unread message. Bold letters flashed on the screen, and for a brief instant, the world spun. My heartbeat synced to the unnerving pulse of dread that tinged the edges of my consciousness. "Ava, your fate isn't in your hands anymore. You have something of mine. Come back, or else I'll make you regret the day you tried to escape." It was a chilling reminder that no matter how far I ran, Felix's shadow hung heavy above me, an unyielding specter. My grip tightened around the phone, dread settling deep in my bones. In that small cafe room, I faced the growing storm once more, not just the impending chase, but the dawning realization that my escape was merely the beginning of his relentless pursuit. The cliffhanger of danger pulled taut, casting a pall over the warmth of newfound connection, leaving me breathless with uncertainty. As the weight of Felix's message sank deeper into the pit of my stomach, I felt the warmth of hope that Sophia had ignited begin to flicker like a candle caught in the wind. Her presence was a comforting anchor, but it was quickly overshadowed by the dark tendrils of fear creeping back into my mind. I stared at the phone, the blue light bathing my face, its brightness contrasting sharply with the storm brewing within me. "What is it?" Sophia asked, concern knitting her brows again. She leaned closer, each second stretching out with unbearable tension as I slowly turned the device toward her, the words glaring back at us. "Oh no," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. The color drained from her face as she processed the threat that had launched itself into our moment of refuge. I could feel the space between us shrink under the weight of impending danger. "We need to do something," I said urgently, my heart pounding chaotic rhythms. "I can't just sit here and wait for him to come for me." Sophia stood straight, her expression shifting from concern to determination. "You're right. We can't let him find you here." She paced the chipped wooden floor, threading her fingers through her hair, a sign of her mounting frustration. But we need a plan. Running without one won't save you. Her calm demeanor ignited a small flicker of courage within me. What if we go to the police? I suggested, desperation lacing my words. They have to help. Sophia shook her head slowly, her gaze fierce but cautious. If Felix has connections, he'll know how to manipulate that. He can't find out where you are. ITLL only put more people at risk, including me. I bit my lip, the weight of her words sinking in. It wasn't just my life at stake. The moment I involved anyone else, the chain of danger would extend. What then? Just hiding isn't going to work. I can't live in fear. For a moment, silence enveloped us, thick like fog, as we both grappled with the increased pressure. Then Sophia's expression softened, an idea sparking in her mind. There's someone I trust. An old friend who can help. He's been involved in protective services and knows how to handle situations like this. The hope in her voice pulsed through me, driving away the shadows momentarily. Can you reach out to him? Right now? Yes, she nodded decisively. But there's no guarantee he'll agree to help. Any help is better than nothing, I replied, desperation where courage should have been. Okay, stay here. She stepped away as I watched her, and I felt a painful tightening in my chest, the fear of being left alone again gnawing at me. But I had to trust her. Sophia stepped out into the alley, pulling her phone from her pocket, the sunlight casting fleeting warmth against my skin even as dread swirled around me. I moved to the window, pulling aside the thin curtain to see her pacing, her whispers lost to the wind. Time felt warped, an elastic band stretched beyond its limits, until a faint rustling brought me back to the gravity of my own reality. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and I turned sharply. A young man stepped into the room, his face familiar, and yet alien, the kind of confidence and ruthlessness sculpted from hardship and survival. Jagged scars lined the edges of his jawline, and I recognized him from a distance. Lucas, the tattoo artist from Sophia's stories, the one with a haunted past wrapped in shadows. Ava, is it? His rich voice laced with curiosity aligned with his piercing eyes that seemed to scrutinize my very essence. Sophia told me you've got some trouble on your hands. I nodded, my breath hitching as I re-entered this world and took in the gravity of his presence. Felix is relentless. I need to get away from him. He's hurt people before. Lucas stepped further inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click that reverberated in my chest. And how bad do you believe it might get? The weight in my chest grew as I swallowed hard. I don't know. I'm scared, and I don't know if I can outrun this. His eyes softened, just for a moment, and I saw a flicker of understanding. We aren't going to let that happen, but running is only part of it. You need to be smart about this, too. As he laid out a plan, I stole glances at Sophia, who now stood quietly, her face a mixture of concern for both me and him. There was something undeniable between them, an unspoken connection woven through their shared secrets. With each word Lucas spoke, the road ahead became clearer, panoramic with potential paths. Yet, a haunting thought echoed unceasingly, called, I really escaped Felix? It wasn't until Lucas finished and turned his gaze to me, his features taut with seriousness, that the realization hit. If Felix finds out we're planning this, everything could change. We're treading dangerous waters. Suddenly, a resounding explosion of sound echoed from the street outside. Cars honked chaotically, and a voice, familiar yet foreign, rippled through the air, bringing dread crashing down once more. Ava. Felix's voice boomed like a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. I know you're in there. Panic coursed through my veins, gripping my heart in an icy clench. My breaths quickened as I exchanged frantic glances with Lucas and Sophia. Oh my God, he's here. We were no longer just planning my escape, we were thrust into the thick of the storm, and the chase was about to reach its crescendo. The cliffhanger of danger tightened precariously, leaving me teetering between disbelief and the flickering hope that somehow, against all odds, I would find a way to survive this tangled web of threats. The walls felt like they were closing in as Felix's voice penetrated the air, each syllable a reminder of how close he was, how real the threat had become. My heart raced against the confines of my ribcage, a frantic drumbeat urging me to flee, to hide. I moved instinctively, driven by survival, but Lucas' firm hand on my arm froze me in place. Don't move, he whispered, urgency threading through his tone. We need to stay quiet. He might just be bluffing, but we can't risk him knowing we're here. I nodded slowly, my eyes darting to Sophia, whose face reflected my terror. She was tense, her body rigid, but there was a glimmer of resolve within her gaze that seemed to whisper promises of safety if I could just hold on a bit longer. Felix's voice again cut through the silence, now mingled with an unsettling mix of anger and desperation. Ava, I know you're in there. You can't hide forever. He paused, and at that moment, I could hear his footsteps on the pavement outside, growing increasingly erratic, as if he was mapping out our territory. Stay low and keep quiet, Lucas murmured, motioning for us to retreat backwards slightly into the shadows of the room. The soft scent of old wood filled my nostrils, and I tried to steady my breathing, reminding myself this was just one moment in this overwhelming nightmare. Time felt distorted, suspended in a fragile bubble where each second felt like an hour. I could hear my heart thumping wildly as horrid thoughts raced through my mind. What if he got in? What if this was it? Suddenly, Lucas moved closer, whispering just for my ears. If he breaks in, I want you to run. Don't look back. You hear me? His eyes burned with urgency, piercing through the turmoil that clouded my thoughts. You may not think it, but you have a strength that's waiting to rise. Don't let him take that away from you. The door rattled violently against the frame, shaking the walls and sending shards of terror directly into my heart. Ava, Felix shouted again, his voice sharper now, laced with an unyielding ferocity. You have 5 seconds to open this door. You don't want to see what happens when I have to break it down. The countdown twisted around me like a vice. 5 seconds. Or was it more like a ticking clock heralding my doom? Panic surged through my veins, igniting a firestorm in my chest. I looked to Lucas, but he was unfazed, his focus unwavering as he gauged the situation outside like a lion sizing up its prey. Ava, listen to me, he said, his hand steadying my trembling shoulder. You need to trust me. This isn't just about you anymore. Before I could respond, a shadow flickered across the small window, and a moment later, the door splintered with an explosive crack. My heart plummeted as I realized we were out of time. I'll distract him, Lucas hissed, positioning himself toward the door, a fierce determination radiating from his posture. Just go. But I began, despair seeping into my voice. I couldn't let him face that monster alone. He didn't deserve to be in this fight because of me in no time. He shot back, his frustration blending with fierce protection. Now, and just like that, the moment splintered into chaos as Lucas barreled toward the door, catching Felix off guard with a sudden push that sent him stumbling back. My heart raced for a heartbeat, torn between the urge to run and the instinct to aid him. Go. Sophia urged, her hand gripping mine now, pulling me toward the small back entrance of the room. We can't waste another second. With one last lingering look at the two figures I cared for, Lucas bracing himself against the fray and Felix grimacing like a stormy feet propelled me forward, propelled by sheer adrenaline and fear. We slipped into the narrow alleyway, the air cooler here, carrying the scent of rain-soaked pavement from earlier storms. My mind whirled, filled with dread for the moments that had just transpired. We ran in silence, hearts pounding against our chests, with every step echoing my resolve to survive. Yet, deep within, I couldn't shake the sense that what was unleashed might be infinitely worse than what we'd just escaped. Suddenly, I skidded to a stop, the urgency of our escape giving way to the crushing weight of despair. Where do we go now? I asked, breathless and terrified, the looming question of safety seemingly slipping away with each passing moment. Sophia's eyes sparkled with determination. We need to find Lucas, she said firmly. He's going to be looking for us. We can't leave him behind. My heart sank. I couldn't bear the thought of him facing Felix alone. But as we stood there, vulnerable and unsure, a horn blared in the distance, shaking off my static thoughts. A nearby car screeched to a halt, and its headlights flooded the alley, illuminating our frantic expressions. My stomach dropped at the sudden sound. Could it be Felix? Or worse? The clash of emotions was a tidal wave, coming to claim my sanity. Sophia instinctively grabbed my arm tighter. We need to hide, she urged, glancing around for any semblance of safety. But before we could act, I froze. From the shadows emerged a figure, moving cautiously. My heart raced again at the possibility of imminent danger, But as the silhouette approached, its familiar shape cut through the haze of uncertainty like a beacon. "Wait," I called, a surge of recognition chasing away my fear. "Lucas?" He stepped closer, dusting off his clothes. But his expression was grave, shadowed by uncertainty. "We need to leave. Now. I have a plan." The words ignited hope against the relentless storm of fear encasing me. But as I took a breath, a shiver seized me as I noticed an unusual shimmer in his pocket. My heart dropped at the realization: a knife. "Lucas, what are you planning?" I whispered, dread pooling as I read the weight of his expression. "He'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe," he stated, his voice resolute, a thickness settling between us. It was a promise, but it came with a heavy cost, one I knew I couldn't fully afford. The weight of decisions loomed larger than ever, urging me to question if fear was really stronger than the fight to reclaim what I loved even against sleet and shadows. And as we positioned ourselves in the tangled web once again, where pain and strength fused into a singular moment of truth, the echoes of danger became a haunting refrain that shaped the road ahead: to trust, to fight, or to run. The night air clung to my skin, and even as Lucas's presence momentarily stoked the fires of hope, the chill of uncertainty seeped into my bones. My thoughts danced along the edges of panic like shadows teasing from the dark, where Felix's voice still reverberated through my mind. The urgency in Lucas's demeanor pulled at me, anchoring me amidst the chaos swirling like a tempest around us. "Lucas, we can't stay here," I urged, instinctively sensing the weight of our surroundings. The alley, dimly lit and filled with debris, was filled with too many memories of that last moment, the split seconds before chaos erupted. "If Felix finds us, I guarantee you won't be alone," he insisted, stepping into my line of sight, his gaze fierce and unwavering. "But we have to move. Now." My heart twisted painfully at the thought of Lucas confronting Felix with that knife in his pocket. It was a tool of desperation, a lifeline wrapped in uncertainty, and I felt the gradual release of tension in my chest. There was something profoundly intimate about that moment, as if we were locked in our own world, just two survivors seeking light in a hellish night. Sophia, still gripping my arm, turned toward Lucas, her eyes searching for reassurance. "What's the plan?" she asked, the tremor in her voice underscoring her lingering fear. "There's a warehouse past the end of this alley," Lucas explained, his voice steady yet suffused with urgency. "We can barricade ourselves, find a phone, and alert someone." A wave of doubt crawled back as my mind churned with reservations. What if we reached the warehouse and found it empty, or worse? What if I led them back into the very storm we had fled from? The air grew tense with my unspoken fears, each breath drawing closer to the brink of despair. "That we can't simply run there," I breathed, finding clarity in my growing agitation. "What if Felix is already ahead of us? We could fall right into his trap." Lucas' brow creased, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of our predicament settled heavily in his eyes, reflecting an understanding deeper than words. "We'll have to take a risk," he replied softly. "I won't let him hurt you. Not now. Not ever." Just as his words started to comfort the anxiety balled up inside me, a shout echoed from the far end of the alley. Our dreaded names unraveled into the night like jagged edges. "Ava, Sophia, I know you're out there." It was Felix, his voice wrapping around us like a noose, sharpening my instincts to flee. "Now," Lucas shouted, seizing my hand in a grip that felt equal parts urgent and protective. We bolted forward, hearts racing in sync, with Sophia hot on our heels. We ran as if wings had sprouted from our heels, the world blurring beyond reason and rationality. Desperation surged with each heartbeat, leading our feet toward that enigmatic warehouse, pushing away the fear that loomed like dark clouds overhead. I stole a glance over my shoulder, my breath hitching as I caught sight of Felix's unmistakable figure reflected in the dim streetlights, his eyes wild and alight with fury. We rounded a corner, the building finally rising before us like a fortress, shadows deep and inviting so long as Felix did not catch up. As we approached the entrance, a sliver of moonlight flickered through the broken windows, revealing a room crammed with discarded crates and remnants of forgotten lives. My heart sank alongside my hopes as doubt clouded my mind. Would this sanctuary transform into a prison, just as my heart had been cloistered by fear. Get inside, Lucas urged, nudging me forward and ushering Sophia ahead. He was the last to enter, slamming the door behind us with a determined thud that sent echoes dancing in the stillness. Inside, silence enveloped us, amplifying the quickening whispers of our breaths. I pressed my back against the cool wall, fighting against the fear that knotted my insides. What now? I asked, the question trembling on the edge of panic. Lucas knelt briefly, peeking through a grimy window, then straightened, his brow tightly knit. We wait. We can't let Felix know we're here yet. The unease churned within me, a violent pulse that mirrored the pounding in my head. And if he does find us? I whispered, the question hanging in the air like a death sentence. Then we make sure we're not weak, he replied, his jaw set with resolve. The intensity in his eyes sent a spark racing through me, and for a moment, I thought I could discern a flicker of the light we so excitedly chased before this nightmare began. But just then, a sound pierced through the enveloping quiet, an unsettling creak emanating from above us, suffused with an unsettling energy. A moment later, my heart dropped as understanding dawned, and the realization sent dread coursing through my veins. Lucas, I began, but he cut me off, his expression dark. We're not alone. Before I could even grasp the implications, the wooden beams above shifted ominously, and the ground beneath us vibrated with a sudden intensity. Panic seized me again, and I darted toward Lucas, who stood between me and the expanse of the Ruma barrier against the unknown. And thin as if the universe had conspired against use. A heavy figure dropped from the ceiling, alighting onto the floor with deliberate malice. The dim light flickering in the warehouse illuminated the face that twisted into a cruel grin. Looking for me. Felix's voice dripped with triumph, the glint of chaos dancing in his eyes. In that moment, time stretched, and I could feel the breath leave my body as I grasped the horrifying truth. The walls of my new reality were closing in, fashioned from the very fear I had fought to escape a nightmare that was only just beginning. The air in the warehouse thickened with tension, each breath I took mingling with disbelief and terror. I stood frozen as Felix's presence filled the shadows, his figure towering over us like a dark specter forged from nightmares. The cruel smile etched on his face sent ice rushing through my veins, anchoring me in a moment that felt surreal, yet terrifyingly real. You thought you could escape? He taunted, his voice a dark melody that slithered through the air. The coldness seeped into my bones, and a surge of resolve ignited deep within me. I wasn't the frightened girl who had once cowered beneath the weight of his gaze. I was a survivor, and I had to reclaim my narrative. We aren't afraid of you, Lucas said, stepping forward, positioning himself between me and the impending danger, his body tense, electric with defiance. You won't control her anymore. The fire in his voice soothed my racing heart, threading through the fear that threatened to consume me. Felicity flickered in Felix's eyes momentarily, replaced by an unsettling calm. Oh, but you should be afraid, Felix replied, his tone dangerously saccharine. The more you resist, the more consequences you'll face. With every word he uttered, I felt the walls closing in around me, the gravity of our situation pressing harder against my chest. The stakes hadn't just risen, they had soared beyond comprehension. An unyielding force propelled me into the depths of my being as I scrunched my fists, channeling every ounce of fear into strength. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the far side of the warehouse, causing Felix to glance away momentarily. This place is a relic of the past, he sneered. And so are you. In that fragile instant, adrenaline fueled my instincts, and the world narrowed to a singular focus. Now, I shouted, my voice ringing like a bell across the echoing expanse, igniting the fight-or-flight response that had lain dormant for too long. Lucas moved like a shadow beside me. Mirroring the urgency that buzzed around us, we turned to push through the debris, shoving crates and discarded furniture in our path as we hurried toward the back exit. With each step, I felt the weight of fear replace itself with something far more potent: courage. Don't run, Felix sneered, his steps echoing like thunder in our ears. You will only prolong this. Yet, I felt invincible and vulnerable against the whirlwind of his chaos. We stumbled upon a narrow door just beyond the clutter, a glimmer of hope shining like a lighthouse amid a relentless storm. My heart raced as I pushed against it, the door creaking open, revealing a sliver of daylight as my pulse quickened. That we can make it, Lucas called out, nudging me through, and that's when everything shattered. A sudden jolt of pain coursed through my arm, and I spun around, gasping as Felix lunged forward, grasping my wrist in a vice-like grip. Get away from her, Lucas yelled, launching himself toward us, the seconds stretching into eternity as my heart plummeted. Fear coaxed my breath into shallow gasps. I couldn't lose this chance. Not now, let her go, Lucas shouted again, pure fury electrifying his tone. But Felix tugged at me with an unsettling calmness, his eyes flicking with sick amusement at the chaos he had conjured like a dark artist reveling in his creation. And then, in that pivotal moment, something within me snapped. I twisted and broke free from Felix's grasp, fueled by the potency of that desperate instinct to survive. It was as if a vital force surged through me, permission to claim my power finally bestowed. To my own surprise, I had struck Felix hard across the jaw, shocked by my own strength as he staggered backward. Gasping in disbelief, an undeniable fire ignited within me, a fierce resolve that burned through every doubt and fear. Let's go, I yelled to Lucas, who looked both astonished and proud, mirroring the adrenaline coursing through my veins. We bolted through the door, racing toward freedom while the world outside flooded our senses. The brightness of daylight surged with the intoxicating aroma of the open AI, as we dashed into the street. I could still hear Felix's enraged shouts trailing behind us, somehow never losing his hold over the shadows we had left behind. But I was flooded with new clarity. We were on the brink of liberation, my heart racing a rhythm of vitality and hope. And then, a metallic clang echoed behind us. A black vehicle screeched to a halt just ahead, and my breath caught, panic twisting in my gut. Felix had summoned forces greater than himself, and in an instant, the chaos I'd barely escaped was rising behind me. Get in, a voice shouted from the vehicle as occupants poured out. My chest tightened as a wave of panic washed over me again. Had I traded one prison for another? I hesitated, my instincts warring against the desperation that clawed at the corners of my consciousness. Yet, when I turned, Lucas met my gaze with unwavering strength. Trust them, he urged, and it all snapped into focus. I had fought too hard to let fear claim me once more. Glancing back, I met Felix's piercing eyes as he emerged from the entrance, a constellation of rage written on his face. Ava, he shouted, you can't run forever. But I turned to Lucas and found safety in the steadiness of his resolve. We have to go? I raced toward the open door of the vehicle as Lucas followed close behind, slipping inside just as the window rolled down. Meanwhile, the engine roared to life as headlights illuminated the chaos around us. The driver was a stranger, but desperation had blurred the lines that would have once kept me cautious. Suddenly Felix plunged toward the vehicle, his figure grotesquely outlined against the sunlight, pure malice radiating from him. My heart thudded in a primal rhythm, my breath quickening. Without hesitation, Lucas reached forward, and the door slammed shut, our hearts pounding as the driver hit the gas, the tires screeching against the asphalt as we took off, leaving Felix behind. The world blurred outside. The streets no longer felt like shackles, but a canvas of freedom splashed with the reminder of life waiting to be reclaimed. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, my heart started racing not from fear, but exhilaration. But just as hope surged, my phone buzzed in my pocket, and instinctively I pulled it out. My heart sank as I saw a new message on the screen. You can run, but I will always find you. Tears stung my eyes not from fear of Felix, but from the realization that this battle would not end, it would evolve. Yet within me lay a newfound strength, a beacon of resolve shining bright against the dark. And in that moment, I whispered to myself, I won't stop fighting. As we left the shadows of the past behind, I felt the embers of my spirit warming against the cold grip of despair, knowing that the journey ahead would be turbulent. But I was finally ready to confront whatever came next together, because sometimes, when facing the storm, you discover the depths of your own strength, and in that discovery, you find that there's always a way to reclaim your light. And as we sped away into the unknown, I vowed to reclaim every moment snatched from my grasp, determined to emerge not just as a survivor, but a warrior not just for myself, but for the lives touched by my journey. In this battle of shadows and light, I was ready to rise to my power, to vanish the fear, and to embrace every piece of me that deserved to be free.